Welcome to Nebraska Preps Postgame with Damon Benning and Jacob Padilla.
Now that's the cool voice guy. We call him Cam. Doing another episode of Nebraska Preps Postgame. It's my main man, Jacob Padilla, joining us for like a little weekday rendezvous as we talk about that the week that was summer basketball. And by the way, very Natalie attired, fashion savvy with his pro finals hat on is Mr. Jacob Padilla.
Yeah, I figured had reason to celebrate this week after kind of what happened down in Houston with my team. So won some gear, figured wear it to the show.
I like it. I like it a lot. So you get done with this deal and usually you save it for the end if you're feeling it, but sometimes, you'll say, hey, listen, I'm proud of.
Yeah.
This week at the end elicited I'm proud of text. Like, did you feel like just what your guys had to go through, the bracket, the style of play, the making of the finals? Like, what was it that elicited the JP feelings that typically you like to save if you share them at all? Because you're not the type of guy to manufacture fake feelings.
Yeah, and backtracking, we're talking about the PRO16 Finals of the New Balance circuit. That's what Nebraska Supreme is on, and went down there this last week, and my 15s team won the whole thing. So that was first year of the tournament will forever be the inaugural 15U champions of this league. And I mean, they're putting a lot into this league. They're trying to blow this thing up, trying to make it approach the others that have been around for a while. So pretty cool to be able to pull this off. And especially, I mean, we talked about it. We knew things were going to be a little difficult when we put this team together because of how spread out it was. Obviously, we didn't get to practice much in the spring. We weren't full strength outside of one weekend the entire spring. We went 500 in the spring with so many players missing and having to pull subs in and play with 6 guys at times. And so for them to kind of persevere through that, come back and have a great showing at River Cities, and then go down there and go 5-0 in Houston. We definitely got a little bit of help with the way the bracket fell out, because the 1 and 2 seed both fell earlier in the tournament, but we took out the 3 seeds.
Hey, listen, sometimes it's like that. I always love this. Happens a lot in March Madness. Well, they had an easy path, and I'm like, in basketball, in those one game winner take alls, if the higher seed beats the lower seed, then that team may be pretty good too.
Well, and the kind of way I look at it is like, those other teams didn't take care of business, and we did. We did what we were supposed to. So
that's the ultimate trump card.
It was automatic,
right?
Yeah. If it was,
why play the game?
Yeah.
Just pencil in the seeds, right?
Yeah. So, but we took down the 3 seed in the semifinals and the 4 seed in the championship, who had beat us back in the spring when we didn't have everybody. So,
and I knew, it's funny, if you guys remember Jacob last week, he had kind of that cheese eating grin. I'm looking forward to getting a chance to run it back with my full squad. And you got your chance to run it back with your full squad.
Yep. We are now 8-0 or 9-0 rather, when we've had all 10 players healthy and able to play. So
the hammy held up last week.
Oh yeah. Heck, forget not only that. Jack Poppy is
he
great.
Played well.
And then he was playing 7-on-7 and apparently had 14 touchdowns in 2 games for as Donovan Trumbull won 7-on-7 tournament out at Wayne. So no, he's diving full on right back into it for making up for everything that he missed over the last couple months. So, but yeah, he was great. Nate Kelly ended up being named tournament MVP, had 22 in the championship. He had the game winner in the semifinal. And I told him, so at River Cities in the championship game, we got the ball back down by 2, had a chance to go tie it, and Nate turned it over, and I pulled him over, trying to just go too fast, trying to get the ball there because he saw the play, and just had deflected. And I told him, hey, end of the game, we're going to put the ball in your hands. I trust you. I know we're going to get good results out of it. And this week, select basketball, it's a really good program. And we were down 10 second half. I know Kobe Myers stepped up, knocked down a couple big threes that helped kind of spark the comeback, and got the game tied in 30 seconds left or whatever. They're in his zone. Nate, instead of dribbling the air ball, trying to create, gave it up and cut Jordan Aguema from Green Prep made an unbelievable pass right through the defender's arms in front of him, catch, finish, go up. And then we got, I don't know that we got to stop, but they missed a shot at the end that would have won the game for them. They had a pretty good look from the corner, really good set by them. And it just didn't go down, which, I mean, we had some really bad luck in end game situations in the spring. So to have one come back to us certainly felt good.
When you watch Jordan play and you've seen Clausen and we know what's going on with Trinnell and maybe a blossoming backcourt. Can you see him fitting in relatively seamlessly with the prep bunch that we kind of think we see formulating?
Yeah, I think he's got some guys ahead of him, some older guys. We'll see kind of how that shakes out. But I know he was voted MVP by his teammates on the JV team as a freshman. If that doesn't tell you how teammates feel about him, how they feel about him in that prep program, I don't know what does, because he was a difference maker this weekend. And again, one of those guys, big time soccer player, so he hasn't been able to make everything, but he was really good this weekend. Heck, that select team basically zoned us the entire game because right out the gate, they couldn't stay in front of Jordan. Just got downhill, first 3 possessions or so, got down there, put some pressure on him, and got to the basket, and either made a play for himself or his teammates. And so they always feels good when you're able to beat a team that goes primarily zone, and we did that. And then the game before that, so it's New Balance League. Like, you're not supposed to wear any opposing gear. But as a program, we joined late, so we didn't get any sponsored gear really. So some of my kids had Derek Tondras was wearing other socks and had it rolled over, and apparently it pulled up just enough that the other team pointed it out to the ref so they could get the technical.
Petty.
And one of their kids was wearing Nike, but it was the Elite socks, so like you could see the design, but you couldn't see necessarily the Nike swoosh. But so like the rest, if I don't see the logo, then I can't call it or whatever. And so so they called that out, and we ended up winning that game by like 18 or something. So
that's how far Petty gets you.
Yeah.
So you and I, we talked earlier. We were kind of speculating. I'm just going on, Cumro and some of these guys that are putting this league together with the merger and what they want to do with the team selection. We're going all the way back to the beginning of the merger with Supreme. It was talked about as being very competitive. You had no idea what you were getting into, right? And I said, it seems like this is going to be a very competitive league. After the first tournament, I think you felt like, okay, I'm not sure. I'd like to see what the other teams look like. I know it's going to be round robin seeding. At the very end, as you're rocking your hat and your gear, you have to be pretty happy with the way that this league has come together in year one, right? It appears to be very competitive and well done. Especially for year one.
Good programs. They've got multiple D1 players at every level. Like, heck, we had to play against a kid that's got D1 offers and recently got a high major offer. Our first weekend down there in St. Louis, we played against them, and they've got, heck, Joe Sterling is a kid in our class that's playing up on the 17s and giving everybody buckets out there for Washington Supreme. So like they've got some really good talent. Obviously, Asa Newell is kind of the poster child for the league. They're the 5-star, and they got some other really talent. I mean, you look at some of those 17U teams, like they are legit. That one family team is unbelievably good.
One family is a good program.
So you got Las Vegas Knicks is another good program that like you've heard of that has done very well over the years that they've got into the league now. And they've got Pop Njai is kind of blowing up as a 7-foot shot blocker. They got a wing out there. It's like there are a lot of guys throughout the league that at all 3 levels that I was very impressed by what it ended up being, because again, like I wasn't really given much information about how legit this was going to be in year one or what exactly it was going to look like. So that makes it even more exciting to be able to kind of pull this off this week. And the best part of it is like how balanced we were. Like Derek Tondras stepped up in the semi and the final. We had 37 points between the 2 games. Like I mentioned, Nate Kelly stepped up late, but throughout the tournament, like everybody contributed from my team. It was so balanced. Like Tondras led us 12.5 points a game. Kelly was 10.5. Jack Poppy was 10.5. Like almost everybody, I think we had 9 out of the 10 scored at least 8 or more in a game this weekend. It was different guys every single game. I think 6 different kids scored in double digits multiple times throughout the 5 games. So it's just a really good team. We got on a nice roll there, and everybody made impactful plays. So really fun way to start. I mean, we beat Midwest Renegade by 8 in the championship. Select basketball mentioned in the semifinals. That was the only close game that we played the whole time, because we were up double digits against Renegade, and they threw in some threes down the stretch, and we missed a bonus or whatever to make it look a little closer. So
how much of what you've seen, I get it, the numbers, right? I know your roster fairly well. How much of what you're seeing is not just your numbers, but the fact you're playing more consistently? I mean, you're running it back, in consecutive weekends for the month of July. That has to help too with continuity, right?
Yeah, we got a full team practice for the most part on Thursday leading into River Cities, and then had good group there, and then carried in. We had everybody down in Houston. So it's good to just kind of consistently get the group together to play, because like chemistry was great. Again, the balance, the sharing the ball.
I watched your
together.
videos and also the pictures. Those guys genuinely seem to like playing with one another.
Yeah. And we found some good groups too. Like I kind of stuck with the same groups throughout the first 3 games, which were all blowouts. So easy to split playing time and give everybody a chance. And thing about like both groups, no matter who started, who came off the bench, they each made runs during those games to take control. So like I said, everybody played well together, and shared the ball really well. So it's a fun group for sure. And heck, we spent a lot of time together down there. I had to be one of the chauffeurs to help kids get around.
We joked about it last week, and turned out you had to be that guy.
Yeah, we're piling kids into the vehicle, trying to figure out, all right, who's coming with me, who's going with their parents, do I need to get food? Like what are we doing now? So it was it was a little hectic. Some travel issues going there and back, but made it all worth it to be able to kind of have this experience with this group.
Before we touch on Rock Hill at the end, let's get into kind of what you think you're going to expect this weekend from the tournament. Omaha Elite, some good programs will be competing in this deal. You're playing up, at least early, right? As you kind of see it, you earned the right. Is that how you're looking at it?
Yeah, I guess.
What are you looking forward to? Is this should be a pretty talented tournament?
Yeah. So for those that weren't aware, the 15s and 16s, we played all the way through the bracket down in Houston. The 17s played 3 pool games and then 2 bracket games. So they set up the Elite 8. So now the Elite 8 is coming to Omaha along with another just 4 pool game or showcase game tournament for the rest of us. So that's going to be here over at the field house at Council Bluffs. So cool thing is, so like you mentioned, our team's playing up. We're playing 3 16U teams, and then Louisiana Elite, who was the 1 seed from the 15U bracket, that ended up losing in the
early
in the quarterfinals. Yeah. And they beat us back in the spring. They only lost once the entire spring. So like that's a good team, but we got down big and got it back close with them, and then had a chance to kind of get a turnover and go tie the game, and just didn't quite work out. So looking forward to a kind of rematch with those guys, and then I guess we're going to test ourselves against the older teams. But the 17U from down in Houston, so Omaha Elite and Nebraska Supreme were in the same pool along with Select Basketball and then Tulsa Hawks. So you play your 3 pool games, whatever. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. So they fall into different places in the bracket after pool play. All 4 of those pool teams made it to the quarterfinals, and they're coming to Omaha to compete for the championship, which is pretty impressive. So congrats to
Nebraska good showing for Nebraska basketball.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And even the 16U team, they Nebraska Supreme, they won their first game in overtime. And the second game they lost to the eventual champion in Select. Then they won. They beat a team kind of in their first consolation game. Washington Supreme, good program. And then they officially it goes down as a loss in the final consolation against One Family, 79-80. on a putback at the buzzer that was very clearly after the buzzer that the rest counted anyway. So that's kind of a tough way to officially lose, but they essentially won that game. Like if the rest had a better angle of it, but so even the 16s who went 2-2, 3-1, however you want to look at it, that their one loss was to the eventual championship.
How do you look at the breaking down of the Omaha Elite and Nebraska Supreme?
Yeah. So for OE, man, Daleron Thomas,
he's on a roll.
He had an unbelievable weekend.
He's on a roll.
Yeah.
And we know he's as streaky as they come. When he gets it going and he's comfy, he can be a handful.
Yeah. So OE went 1-2 in pool play. They lost to Nebraska Supreme and Select. They beat Tulsa Hawks. The game against Select was rough. Nobody could make a shot. Literally nobody was in double figures. They were 1-17 from 3.
You think they were too hyped up for Supreme?
Maybe as a case, because they didn't play great against the Tulsa Hawks. They were down 10 at halftime, but rallied, led by Daleron kind of going off in the second half. But they turned it up for bracket play and won their 2 games, beat Jones Academy, and then beat Washington Supreme with Joe Sterling that I mentioned. That has all kinds of high major interest already. So, but Daleron scored 19. And again, like nobody played well in that Select team. Then he scored 27 against Supreme in the loss. He scored 24 in the first bracket game, and then scored 20 in the second round bracket game. So,
when you look at the local flair that had an impact at that age group this past weekend, probably Glock and Thomas.
Yeah, and then moving over to
like the top 2 performers, it seemed.
Yeah, Marcus, man. So the thing about Marcus in the spring, like we know he's a great shooter. He didn't have a great spring from a 3-point shooting percentage wise. Like he had some good games and like, okay, there it is. But overall, from like I watched 13 of their 20 games, and he was below what he's capable of shooting wise. That he has fixed that in these first 2 weeks of July. He has been lights out, and bumped his percentage up to 43% on the season. I've got 20 of their 28 games, and so he had a great weekend. Really shot the ball well. And they had Antoine Sanlinel stepped up with Bangat Dak, obviously heading off to Colorado. He's the one like true post on the team.
Yeah, it gives you some length, a little rim protection.
And a double-double in the first game, 6 offensive rebounds, and kind of had some key plays throughout the week. And they had different guys like Carter, like they shot 40% from 3 as a team. Alex Wilcoxon was 13 of 21 from 3. He just continues to do what he does, shooting almost 50%. Carter Mick was 7 of 15 from 3 and had a couple big games off the bench. I mentioned Glock, who led them in scoring and had a great week overall. So it's a good team, and they found a way to get the bench guys, all those guys from Lincoln, like each of them kind of made different contributions at different times to help make up for the loss of Dak in the starting lineup. So really good weekend from them. They went 5-0. They beat everybody. They won the pool. Then they beat a good Louisiana Elite team. And then they beat 3D Empire, who you haven't seen. They've got a kid, Cool Attack, I believe is his name. Dude is unreal, like 6'9", one of the quickest, effortless releases I've ever seen. Like Texas was there watching him, and he ended up with 28 on 19 shots in that game. But they found a way to kind of hold everybody else in check and get the score enough to get the win there. Glock had 18 in that game to kind of help lead the way. So they had a really, really good weekend. So you got Nebraska Supreme and Omaha Elite. So the 17U bracket, the Elite 8 that is here, will be over at Council Bluffs this weekend. It's One Family versus Tulsa Hawks and Nebraska Supreme versus Las Vegas Knicks. So that's one side of the bracket. Those 2 winners will face each other. And then the other side, it's Omaha Elite against BTI Hoops and Flight AAO against Select Basketball. So the winners of that will face off, and then we'll have the championship there. So
that's a competitive bracket.
It's a heck of
really competitive bracket.
That's a really tough path for Supreme. They beat the Knicks back the first weekend. Obviously, they had Bangat in that one. And then with one family, it was a tight game at halftime, and then they just kind of pulled away, overwhelmed them in the second half, ended up winning by 20. But they gave them a heck of a battle in that one. So, and one family, they've got Ace Newell, like I mentioned, 5-star. They've got kid committed to Florida, really a big athletic wing. They've got a guard that's been racking up D1 offers recently. They just got athleticism and shooting everywhere. That's the tough thing. Like, typically a big athletic team, you think, just kind of go to the rim, crush you on the glass, all that type of stuff. But no, they are shooting threes in transition. They're pulling up. They're knocking them down. Like, it's tough. There's no really one good way to defend that team because of everything that they've got. So, yeah, one family, I think, definitely the favorite, but Flight AAO, they've got some kids that can go too. They're the only ones that beat one family during the kind of the regular season, if you want to call it that. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough draw for the Nebraska teams, but again, making 2 of the Elite 8 coming from little old Nebraska, really impressive showing down in Houston for kind of everybody involved down there. Mari Shoemaker and Barrett Boziger were probably kind of the 2 standouts from the 16U team to kind of give them some attention there. Mari had 18 in that one family game, had 14 against Washington Supreme, and was clutch at the free throw line down the stretch. Boziger was in double figures every game, had 19 in that one family game. So those are kind of the guys that led the way for that team. I mentioned kind of some standouts from my team in 17s. And then OE outside of Thomas, they kind of had everybody step up. Quentin McCaffrey had a few big games, had 11 threes, I think, in the 5 games they had down there. And they got double-digit games.
He's interesting.
Yeah. Keelan Bennett was kind of quiet early on, and then he was huge in that Washington Supreme game to kind of punch their ticket to Omaha. It finished with 15 points, had a 3, had a layup, had a block down the stretch that were all key to help them kind of stretch it out. DeAndre Harper had 12 in that Washington Supreme game from Omaha North as well. Minor Strong had a couple double-digit games. Devin Holman had double-digit games.
I think Strong's has had a good summer.
Yeah, so they got. I mean, that's what you need. They got contributions from a lot of different guys throughout the week, and that's the only way to kind of be able to have success.
Quickly, a rundown from Vegas statistically, as ETG will be on a flight tomorrow, roughly about this time, as they turn right around and head to Vegas.
Yeah. Overall, I mean, coming off the Adidas Summit Championships in Rock Hill, I mean, what was the combined record? 8-3. I
think
11-4.
Yeah,
11
and 4 was the total record.
So, unfortunately, both the 17s and 16s lost their first bracket game. That kind of put them in the consolation plays. So that takes you out. But the 16s made a nice run, and both teams that ended up losing rallied well to finish out the weekend. But both teams didn't lose again. They won all their consolation games. So I guess start with the 17s. I'm sure you saw the most of them. They kind of won their showcase game to open the weekend. Seemed like CJ Mitchell had a pretty good week. Had some big games in there. Neil Moster continues to shoot the ball well. They lost the Veritas Titans, is the one who knocked them out of the kind of championship bracket
game. They should have probably won.
Yeah. Lost by 5 or lost by 6.
I think the ability to make to get a couple key stops, right? They got to get back to being able to get consecutive stops, and when they do rebound the basketball, you've talked about their Achilles all summer. It's you got to have the ability to clean the glass. I think they miss a ropes presence a little bit, just a body on a body. It's a lot of pressure on Will Cooper, Stubblefield. You know, Trinnell still kind of figuring out his way physically. But, you know, CJ did a good job getting downhill. He made some jump shots, which I think makes him really, really tough to handle. Shane, give me about 2 more minutes here, buddy. Makes him tough to handle. And I tell you, with the 16s playing, if they get some backcourt complementary pieces to Kircher handling the ball and Ball shoots it the way that he does, they're pretty capable. I think they got overwhelmed in the backcourt with ball handling. They need another guy to help take some pressure off Kircher consistently. And Lazarick is capable, but he has to spend so much energy defending as well.
Yeah, and that was kind of the one thing that we saw when they put together this team. It's kind of heavy on wings and forwards, and not as much on the kind of the ball handling guards, and the ball handlers you do have are kind of smaller. So if you get some length and athleticism, can make it tough on them. But they pretty good showing overall, man. Bryson Ball, man, dude, the 27 against New World, who in the quarterfinals ended up losing that by 3, but he went off.
You let him take a good look at it. You're surprised if it doesn't go in.
He had 22 in the second half to help get them back into it. Had 20 in the game after that. He had 15 in their final game against Compton Magic for to win 7th place. Ball at 13. He had 16. He was in double digits every single game. 18 in the kind of second round against Team Loaded Virginia. So he just lights out. Like, he definitely great showing for himself there. Derek Rollins had some big games. I mean, Frigger made some plays. Like, I
tell you, Rollins' offensive efficiency, he's on the come. You could tell he spent a good amount of time stretching his game. I feel like this is the couple of weeks in a row that we've said that, and he continues to double down on it.
And he was a little banged up going into the spring.
He really
kind of
was.
Never really got off the ground, never got into true game speed and shape. So I think playing throughout the June probably helped him kind of work his way into that. And now healthy, had some big games for them when they really needed it. So yeah, they went 4-2, but lost to some good teams. And again, they made it to the quarterfinals. So only 8 teams made it that far, and they were one of them. 15s, they went 3-1. Sutton Pietkowski had a game winner, had a good week.
I kind of like him. He's going to be interesting to watch in that offense with all their space, right? Can he find a place to go to work?
Yep, and obviously Deshaun Prince joining that team. Chris Gardner Jr. from Norris had a big game against Jalen Green Elite in their last game. Jackson Cruz had a big game against one-time legends. So overall, pretty good showings by Nebraska boys in Houston and in Rock Hill.
And we get a chance to turn right around and do it again. Very short week. Again, ETG, they're out. They're on the flight. You guys are locked and loaded for the Elite 8. There'll be plenty to catch up on.
Yeah, and shout out to the ETG girls who were at home this last weekend. Obviously, I wasn't here, wasn't able to make it back over there for the Adidas chapter here. But overall, 17s went 3-1, the 16s went 3-1, and the 15s went 4-0 for the Adidas.
Not bad while you're waiting on Britt Prince.
Yeah, exactly.
and one of the tops in the country.
So yeah, good showing by them. I think the 16s are mainly an Iowa team, but the 17s and 15s are primarily Nebraska, and good showings for the boys and girls at the various locations around the country this week for Nebraska.
Best wishes to you guys personally. I'll be out there watching you. It's another week's edition of NEB Preps. That's my man, Jacob Padilla. I'm ODB. It'll be a whirlwind recap next week. Don't you dare miss us.
A Hurrdat Sports Network production.